I've mentioned the Line 6 Helix briefly on this channel once or twice, but after about 8 years of using this thing, I've decided that it's probably my desert island piece of studio gear. Obviously, this is an amp modeler and guitar effects processor, but it's also a MIDI controller, audio interface, multi-path effects processor with preamps, compressors, all sorts of stuff. So today I want to talk about why this is such a cool tool for studios big or small, as well as some downfalls or even missed opportunities with the Helix series that you should consider before buying one of these for your studio. I'll put some links in the description to the various Helix products so that you can check them out for yourself. It will take you to Zounds where you could buy a ton of great music gear with flexible payment plans if that's helpful, and purchasing through those links is a great way to support this channel. Now, the Helix is marketed as an all-in-one solution for guitarists who are looking for a huge collection of effects along with some really great sounding amp models. There are plenty of great examples and demos of these on YouTube, so I really just want to start with emphasizing how hands-on and easy it is to add and manipulate amps and effects. Essentially, this screen shows your signal chain where you can just click this joystick to open up your effects categories and select the exact effect you want to use. For this, I'll select the LA Studio Comp, which, as you can imagine, is a recreation of the LA2A. Now I'll go ahead and hit the action button. While I'm hitting that action button, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more videos like this. Once I hit the action button, I can now move this block toward the beginning of my chain, and you'll see that all of my controls for the LA Studio Comp are right here for me to mess with. Then I can assign this to a switch simply by holding my finger on the switch and clicking confirm, and now I can turn it on and off just like that. And now I can just touch this switch, and when I touch a switch, it will select the block or effect that I have assigned to it so that I can control the effect that I want to control very easily. You may have also noticed the transport switches that I have set up here, and trust me, I'm going to go over that shortly. But first I want to go over the Helix as an audio interface and how that relates to the various ways you can route and record effects on this thing. This is an 8-in, 8-out audio interface. You have tons of physical I/O on the Helix. For this setup, I'm actually running my guitar through the Audient ID22 and setting up an aggregate device with the Helix on my Mac. This way I could take advantage of the ins and outs of both the Helix and the ID22. And the cool thing about this is that through the USB cable going to the Helix, I can route any channel in my DAW or any of my inputs through the Helix using the I/O plugin in Logic Pro. I could do the same with a mic or with my CP73, and it gives you some of the benefits of using something like outboard gear or physical guitar pedals where you have that hands-on control, and you also have the option of printing your effects on the way in if you wanted to do that. And obviously you can use the Helix completely by itself as an audio interface. It has an onboard mic input and guitar input, a Variax input if you're into that stuff, as well as MIDI and some digital I/O at your disposal. You also have your main out, which you can control with this big knob, and you have a separate control for your headphone out. Then of course you have the ability to send and receive MIDI on the Helix. I've used this to turn my Helix into a page turner when playing live. I've also used it for transport control or tempo information with Logic Pro. The preset that I'm using for this right now is actually a template that comes pre-installed on the Helix that uses MMC protocol to communicate with your DAW. The only transport that I added to this was the record switch, and it was super easy to do. You just go to Command Center, move to the switch you want to assign, and select MMC and whatever command you want to send. For whatever reason, record didn't do anything in Logic Pro that I'm aware of. So I had to change it to punch in, and that did what I expected record to do. You can also just set up switches to send MIDI CC to your DAW, or even connect an external expression pedal to the Helix to send to your DAW. If you really wanted to, you could even send MIDI notes to your DAW. And as I mentioned before, you can sync your tempo via MIDI, which is very useful if you're using time-based effects like delay. There's just a lot here. If this was my main audio interface in the studio, I'd probably have it set up in the floor, run my mic into it, my guitar into it, even my keyboard into it, maybe my drum module. Then I could change presets based on what exactly I'm recording at the moment. And within each preset, have my DAW controls set up in the same place so that I can get around my DAW easily, whether I'm holding a guitar or whatever else. And I haven't even mentioned that if you have other effects pedals or maybe amps that you want to integrate with the Helix, you could just run them into one of your 4 effects loops and then move them around your chain however you want to. It's kind of insane. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there are a couple of things that you should know before you decide to go out and buy a Helix. Firstly, the Helix has been out a while. I think it was around 2017 when it first came out. Many people worry about relevancy or currency when it comes to a unit like this, and whether that comes from the mindset that we have to buy the latest and greatest things or bad experiences that people have actually had with compatibility of other devices with Mac OS. In my experience, Line 6 has been very timely with releasing updates to keep up with current operating systems and stuff like that. On top of that, they're also updating the Helix series with new amps and effects and features all the time. Because of that, it doesn't really feel like an out-of-date unit in that regard. Still, I know that's important to some people. Secondly, and this just seems like a missed opportunity, but there's a companion software called HX Edit that comes with the Helix that allows you to control the Helix parameters from your computer. Meanwhile, there's also a plugin version of the Helix called HX Native, which I use all the time. So I wonder how difficult it would be for Line 6 to somehow connect Native and HX Edit to turn the hardware Helix into a plugin controller for HX Native. I'm aware that this is a pretty niche thing at the moment, but imagine if you could take the advantages of using the plugin and pair it with the speed and workflow of the hands-on control you get from the hardware unit when it's connected. Obviously, I wouldn't call this a con, maybe just something that would be interesting to see in a future product like this. There have been tons of products like the Helix come out in recent years from various manufacturers, and while many of them sound great, I'm not quite sure that any of them quite touch the Helix in terms of overall ease of use, feature set, and sound quality. If you have any specific questions about the Helix or you disagree with anything that I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below. I'm pretty open-minded and love to have these sorts of conversations here. And once again, there are affiliate links in the description down below for each of these Helix products, so if you're interested in purchasing one of them, doing so through these links is a great way to support this channel. And if you want to keep watching, click this video right here. And as always, thanks for hanging out.